And some say you can gain more power simply by absorbing vast amounts of fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon European interviews. Up this week, we have Mike Hofstede of PostBeta. Mike, how are you doing today?
Hello, doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I think my colleague is doing fine.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. So, how we like to start things is we like to ask the people behind the game studio, what have you, about where they got started, and specifically, what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level.
Personally, I've been playing games since I was a little kid. Like most of us our age, I started with the Sega actually, and wanted to develop games, make the games myself. I was playing, and eventually I found a job at Coded Illusions. It was a game company in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and they were working on a title for the Xbox 360. That was in 2007, 6, 7, 8, something. And that actually got me into the industry and been making games ever since at various game companies, because in 2008 there was the financial crisis. Publishers had it difficult and they went bankrupt. And so I continued making games at Spill Games. They make Flash games for popular Flash portals. And I also started making my own games and trying to release those. And after that, the mobile platforms became more and more popular. So I started making Android apps games, and eventually also shifted to a company making HTML mobile games. And currently, I made Discontinue, the first VR game. I did it with a colleague, a friend of mine. I also teach at the University of Amsterdam. And so yeah, it's nice to combine those making games and teaching the new people who would like to make games to make games.
Indeed. Not the first time we've had that combination on the show, but it is a rarity, definitely. Like somebody who develops and teaches at the same time.
Yes, although many of my colleagues try to keep making games. So, and the Dutch game industry is also pretty small, and the companies and education is pretty tight as well. So yeah, it works out very well.
Oh, that's good to know. What was the Xbox 360 game you worked on initially?
It also changed. The final name they gave it was Nomos. Nomos, yes. So maybe if you search on the internet, there are still some links around that give an image here or there about the game.
With a G or?
Sorry?
How do you spell it?
Nomos.
Okay.
Nomos.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, doesn't ring a bell offhand. Like,
never got released because they went bankrupt, and the assets I think got sold.
Like, not a surprise given what you mentioned since 2008 financial crisis. Just no, I didn't even hear that in like the lead up to like whatever. So, but anyway, have you kept up? Like, are you a full independent developer, or do you still like work in the AAA sector or what have you?
No, I'm like as indie as it can be. So I have to do. I do everything myself. So the making and the publishing and it does everything.
You wear every hat.
Yes, not as good all hats, but you have to as when you're doing it yourself. Then it's part of the game.
Indeed. All right, I suppose before we continue, we should show the trailer for Discontinue here.
Cool. Yeah.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
Make that visible.
Just got to make sure it's all queued up and covering for to make sure there's no dead space. All right, here we go.
Pardon me.
What?
Pardon me, my internet sometimes gets stupid when I'm trying to stream.
All right. So I suppose the first question to be asked is the title Discontinue a pun?
Come again?
Is the title of Discontinue a pun?
A pun.
That is to say,
Because you're throwing discs.
Continue.
Yes. So it is. Yeah, it starts with disc,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have like continue.
Right.
Or not.
Okay, so we were wondering if that was the case or not.
Yes. So yeah, continue throwing discs. It's that's in there. Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. Satisfying our own curiosity. All right. So
good. You saw that in it because that's hopefully it. The name also we got feedback about the name Discontinue that didn't work well in titles because it also makes people think about stopping. That something doesn't continue; it's being stopped, cancelled, or something.
Right.
So that's a thingy.
I see. Let's see. Where to start? I suppose the first question outside of the title is, what compelled you to get into the VR space in the first place?
A colleague of mine, the friend who worked, who I worked with together in the beginning to experiment with what would be possibilities we could find in VR gaming, and it was like breathing in conversations, and it came back once in a while, and then at some point we decided to schedule a few days to start and experiment with the possibilities in VR and gaming. And that's how it got rolling.
And how did you land on this particular concept, of throwing discs at towers and bullets and so on and so forth?
Yeah, so I also see the development diaries are showing on the channel, so that's very good because there you can see the process of we went through. Mm-hmm. So it started out with a sandbox room, and we started throwing things, and we were thinking and looking at other games. What did other games do? What didn't they do yet? What are people very familiar with? What can you do in VR which you cannot do using your mouse and keyboard or controller, for example, or D-pad? And that's how we got with the throwing mechanic. And then we thought about frisbee, then science fiction and retro joined in, but not directly. We also experimented with some other styles, which you can also see in some of the videos, which are more medieval or cartoony.
Right, I've seen those. Those were certainly interesting aesthetics, though. Given what's on display here, the Tron look seems to fit well. Yeah,
it's one of the associations people get reminded of when they play the game, which can be a good thing. And but it was a very creative ideation. So we just we experimented, tried to feel what would work right, what was compelling to others. We had friends over to some progress and tell them what they thought, what they liked, disliked, and it evolved into this synthwave kind of style.
And given the footage here, it looks like it's 360-degree movement. Like you can look around in all directions, you can throw around, and yes. Which is this is room scale VR, correct?
True. Yeah, you can move on a platform. I think 2x1, and you can turn around. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Progression through the level more or less on rails, then.
Yeah, correct. It's like a rail or tunnel. We defined you have 2 phases in the game, like the tunnel and the arena phase. So the tunnel you continue moving, and once in a while it stops, and you're in an arena. And then you have to eliminate all the obstacles, and then they can be on the left, on the right, in the front. And also you see the drone that flies over you. It will attack you from the back. So you have to look in 360 degrees around you to eliminate all the obstacles and continue.
And that leads into my next question is, have you had any serious problems with motion sickness?
That's one of the things that we were very wary of, that you try to avoid in VR. So the one thing with motion sickness is finding the right speed. Some of the playtesters still experienced it a little bit. If you're at the end of the level and you turn around, then the level disappears with increasing speed. And at that moment, some still feel a little bit of motion sickness. But if you wouldn't look at it, it will probably likely not happen to you. So it's mostly when the world changes differently from what you expect it to do. We try to avoid that.
As much as possible.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's just... Yeah, motion sickness is it's kind of endemic to VR, unfortunately.
Yes, and I'm very sensitive to it. You have those roller coaster games that I'm a good subject as well. But you need to have a good audience to really know to what extent motion sickness or if motion sickness occurs and to what extent.
Indeed. I mean, and some of it's also mitigated by the fact that even though you can look in 360 degrees, you're still on a rail.
Yes.
And let's see, how did the idea of having the towers be the opponent, the target? Where did the towers idea come from?
So we need an objective with the game, and we needed obstacles that will hinder you in reaching that objective. And so we were brainstorming about what kind of objectives or obstacles we could all create. And the lasers, they do pretty well in games.
Mm-hmm.
So they're popular. You easily recognize them. They look nice. They can have a certain speed. It can be variable. And towers shooting lasers. That is also a more common thing. Think about an Obelix in games, or the Tesla Tower in Red Alert. So it's very familiar. Red, of course, is a dangerous color. And they're floating on top of a hexagon. So hexagons are the base shape that is everywhere in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that is triangle on top of that hexagon in red, shooting lasers. It's working well.
I see. And let me see here. So there's a curious blurb that says that the world consists of more than 0 times 2,000 levels. Exactly what does that mean? 0 times 2,000 levels.
Yes, that's maybe an inside programmer's joke.
Uh-huh.
It's hexadecimals.
I figured it was something like that, because otherwise it's 0 levels.
Yeah,
Yes.
0x2000.
Exactly. Yes. So it's in hexadecimals, or this hexadecimal number in decimals would be like 8,172, 92, something like that. So it has 10,000 levels. Too. That's a spoiler.
That is a lot of levels.
Yes.
I'm guessing these levels are randomly generated?
Yeah, they're generated. It's a hybrid method in which we have handcrafted parts to create certain puzzles or certain series of obstacles. And there are about 100 of those, a little bit less. And those are used to create all the other levels. So that they're smaller parts. So all these smaller parts are randomized, and this is how you can search for the level which can give you the highest score, or has the highest difficulty, or is maybe the easiest. That is for the player to find out.
I see. And how long does the average level last?
Roughly 3 or 4 minutes.
About what I was expecting. So this looks like a very arcadey title.
Yes, a very arcadey, actionful. It's the tunnel parts have a fixed speed, but the arenas where you need to eliminate all the obstacles, are dependent on how fast you can do it, how quick you can do it. So if you do those a bit more quickly, then your level is a little bit shorter, but roughly it should be between 3 and 4 minutes.
And do you keep close tabs on the leaderboards?
We did an update recently in which we added that the score is posted to Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also track Twitter for if your score is improved or anything. And there are two types of leaderboard. The one in game for at home that you can compete with maybe friends you invited to play the game and see who plays a certain level the best. And you have the online leaderboards in which you compete for the highest score for each of the 10,000 levels.
And more specifically, how do like the scores of the top players compare to your own?
Good question. Since I've been playing the game and I know what to look for, it starts out with my score being the best, also because maybe it's the first. And I see players that are really quick in throwing, and also that could help a lot. So I think there are much better players around. So maybe
practice yet.
Sorry.
They just don't have enough practice yet.
Or even they have a lot of VR experience, so they have the VR skill and pick it up really quickly. There's this difference between all the players, so that's a good sign. But for the really good players, maybe I'm thinking about making it even more difficult. So adding more elements of difficulty.
Like a new difficulty level or new levels or something?
Yeah, but also new obstacles that are more difficult to combat or defeat.
I see. Now, is this game developed in Unity?
Yes.
I figured.
It's a very standard engine,
Yes.
very easy to use. There's a lot of compatibility, easy for publishing to various platforms. So you can focus on the game and not per se on the core tech.
No, indeed. And along those lines, what platforms is this game available on? Both in does it support one specific headset, or if you have one of the major headsets, can you play discontinue?
Yeah, it started out for HTC 5, and soon after the first after the release, I checked if it would work on the Rift S. So I have tested that and adjusted it a little bit because it used the Steam VR. So it was already pretty much compatible, but it needs to be tested. And with those few adjustments, it's now also released for the Oculus Rift S. So it's in the 5-port store, which is from HTC 5, and it's on Steam, itch, and it's I'm currently in the review process for the Oculus store, so hoping to be on all of them.
Right.
And I also tested the game on a Quest, an Oculus Quest. I'm also currently working on a version for the Quest, but it's a version needs to be a little downscaled because it's a different hardware. The performance is different than from the Rift. So yeah, I need to take that into account, but hopefully I can also bring it to the Quest.
So no particular console ambitions then?
That is to say, any plans for PlayStation VR?
Yes.
Hey, Switch Labo VR is a thing too. I mean, it's not much of a thing, but
let him finish this.
Yeah. So those are quite different. So I would like it to be on the PlayStation VR, but I need to see how I can get there. I have to sign up with PlayStation and then see from there. But it's a next step. Somebody did play the game on the Index, Valve Index, and seemed to work on the device, but I haven't personally tried it. But it's I guess it also uses OpenVR, SteamVR. So
Well, that kind of makes sense since in the Index is Valve's own VR headset.
yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much expectable.
Now, what specifically are you adjusting for the Quest version? I think you're the first developer we've had on the program that's mentioned the Quest.
Very good. I got my hands on a Quest through the university, so that's how I could make something for it, because it's launched quite recently, right? And what I had to adjust so far are the lights, so there's less lighting. And another thing is shaders I had to adjust. And so far, those are the two major performance improvements that made it run on the Quest. There's also a list of videos in on the YouTube channel, which you can look at to see how it performs on the Quest and what the visual difference actually is. And there's quite a difference, because lighting and the shaders do add a nice touch. But functional-wise, the gameplay is the same. So level 2 on the Quest would be the same level 2 on the Rift. It would only look different.
Right. And I'd imagine if you do a PlayStation VR version of Discontinue, it'd be based off of the Quest version, since
I'm not sure yet. I don't know yet.
Well, it's I'm not sure how comparable the two are, because the Oculus Quest is very new hardware.
Yeah.
But it's like it at least seems like a logical transition. But yeah, it's like the devil can be in the details as well. Like,
yeah, very true.
Yeah. Anyway, so is Discontinue, in terms of computer platforms, is this available for Windows only, or is it available on Mac and Linux as well?
Yeah, Windows only. It's again, I haven't looked into the other operating systems to see how easy it is to make it compatible for those. And with VR, it's also, I'm not that familiar with the players, what kind of systems they have.
I'm like, it can. It's like Linux will be tricky just because it's Linux. Mac, I really don't know what the VR scene is on Macintoshes. Like, if that even exists.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and the audience is really, really small. Then you need to make sure you do right to make it available for. You have to choose, right? There's only so much time, so that's.
It'll probably be like pretty decent, but you need like an Apple branded VR headset that like costs 5 times as much as other VR headsets and breaks in 3 years. That was a joke, but
yes. Anyway, Galix, do you have any further questions for our guest?
A couple. One thing is that I see the green thingamabobs that you throw discs at to regain health, but where is your, how can you tell how much health you have left?
Yeah, so with the user interface, you try in VR not to put it on the like a head-up display. So you try to put the information into the scenery itself. So the way we solved giving the player information about its health is showing a heartbeat at the end of the level. So you move in one direction mostly, and in the sky there is this health bar or the health heartbeat, and it's full green and with a strong beat when it's all okay, and it's slowly turning yellow or reddish if you have less health. So it's in the distance, in the far distance. There's also the score there, which are just numbers, and so the health is above the score.
Okay. And my second question is, what precautions have you taken to keep people from throwing their VR controllers as if they were actual discs?
Yes, so luckily the headset developer thinks about that, and they have these wrist bands on the controllers that I think most people don't use, but yeah, of course you should. And those should keep the controller close to the hand.
Okay.
It's the Nintendo Wii all over again.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, then. I think that'll about do it. I'd like to thank you, Mike, for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Thank you for having me in the show. Very great. Cool.
No problem. The game is Discontinue. It's currently available on Steam and the Vive store. Is it on the Oculus store, or is that still in review?
Still in review, so it's not available yet there.
Okay. But it's coming soon to the Oculus store, and it retails for $7.99. Be sure to pick it up today. All right, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Be sure to join us on the Sunday reviews, and until then, I shall wish you good gaming.